make this video in case you get sick sometime here in the next months, or maybe a family member gets sick, or somebody that you're taking care of gets sick, and just tell you some things that were helpful for me during that time of taking care of COVID at home. I know I've been absent for a long time because the COVID virus found me, and that's what I've been dealing with the past few weeks. I made another video that kind of tells my story and what I experienced with that. So I was sick with COVID for 3 weeks, and that was 3 weeks with nobody, and it was in isolation, nobody being able to come in to take care of me. Maybe they would have wanted to, but I did not want anybody to, because I did not want to infect anybody else in the household. And so I had to figure out how to take care of myself. We have a little apartment in their basement, so I had everything that I needed down there. The problem was that I was so sick that most of the time I could not get out of bed to do anything for myself. And I just want to say, just like I said on the other one too, that people get this in all different stages. Some people get it for like 3 days and they barely have a fever, and then they go on their way. Yay for them. Some have it for like 7 days, some have it for 2 weeks, some have it for 3. I happen to be the 3-week person, just riding that roller coaster of COVID for 3 long weeks in isolation. I had Northwestern Hospital here in Chicago was calling me every day. I was on their COVID patient checklist, and so they were calling me every day. So they gave me some helpful information, and some things I just figured out myself. One thing I want to say is the first thing that happens is kind of maybe denial and fear. And I didn't really want to tell anybody. There's so much going on social media and on the news about everybody's opinion about COVID that I didn't want people judging me. I didn't want to feel like a leper. And I didn't want people judging me like, does she really have it? Does she not have it? Whatever. I didn't want to tell people, which is really sad, because not only are you isolated, you feel even more isolated because you just don't want to share it. If you know of somebody that's sick, just let people know that you see them and that you care. So that was a very big deal. And now I'm on my last day of isolation. I've gone my 3 days with no fever and no symptoms, so I'm going to be able to rejoin the family. And now it's super stressful because even though I know I'm not contagious, I feel very cautious and want to be very careful. So there's a lot of mind things that go on with this too. So just be aware of that if you're helping somebody through it, or if you're going through it. I hear you, I know it's tough, isn't it? But let me just go through some things that you can do to maybe help yourself or to help somebody else that is going through COVID at home. I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, but I do think we hear doctors saying, and I was told to keep Tylenol on hand. Actually, they have proven that ibuprofen isn't a bad thing for COVID. So what they had told me to do is to alternate the two. Recommended was extra strength Tylenol. And I'm telling you that Tylenol and ibuprofen going back and forth really, really helped symptoms. Didn't take them away, but it really helps. So that's number one. Make sure you have a thermometer, because you're going to be taking your temperature all the time. You go from just shaking, like you cannot get warm. I don't know how to say it. I've had a fever before, but not quite like that. Just really shaking because you can't get warm, and then sweating out hot. You want to be taking your temperature, because if you're in contact with a hospital or doctor or anything like that, you're going to want to tell them what your temperature is, and you kind of want to watch it and see what it's doing. So make sure you have a thermometer. Thermometer is going to be your friend. The other thing that was a lifesaver for me is that it's so stressful. You're recognizing, okay, I'm one of the 80% of the people who get COVID who are at home, but it's constantly in your mind that at any moment you could be part of that 20% that gets hospitalized. And so that difficulty in breathing is really stressful. So a medical person recommended that we get one of those oximeter, I think that's what it's called, that you put your finger in and it measures your heartbeat, but it also measures the oxygen getting to your heart and to your lungs. This was a lifesaver for me because it took the stress out of worrying all the time. If I felt like, oh my goodness, I think I'm having trouble breathing more than I was having trouble breathing, put this on and you can see right away if you're in danger or not. And you can ask your doctor and he'll tell you where is the worry mark for that. And then you'll know, okay, that's when I need to be worried. So that was really an awesome godsend. Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is just what helped me. The other thing I would recommend is a heating pad or a hot water bottle. Those chills are just so violent at times. Like I just could not get warm. And finally, I thought enough to dig out a heating pad, and it really, really was soothing and helped. I would say also take a lot of baths or showers. I mean, I did that too because just the warmth would just soothe and calm my body. Sometimes I was just too sick and too weak to even get into the shower by myself. But if you can, I would say that would be helpful. So heating pad or water bottle, bath, shower was super helpful. The other thing that the nurses kept telling me that were calling me is drink, drink, drink. You have to stay hydrated. Now, I'm not a doctor, but from what I've read and heard, now there's a little bit of worry about blood clots too when you have COVID. And so you want to keep yourself hydrated. Because of the fevers, you want to keep yourself hydrated. If you're having diarrhea, you want to keep yourself hydrated. And that may sound like an easy thing, but when you're sick, it's really, I had to just talk myself into going to get a drink. So I would recommend a helpful thing would be to make sure the person has something large. This is the largest thing I could find, and it was my friend. Something large they can fill with water so that they're not running back and forth to the bathroom all the time, to drink, 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 and probably ask them constantly, are you drinking? How much are you drinking? Because it's very important to get that thing flushed out too. Hot tea is something that was recommended to me by medical professionals, which really did help. Unfortunately, like I said, so much of the time I was just too weak to go to my little kitchen and boil water to make tea. Seriously, but hot tea, if you're in the household and you're able to leave something outside their door or whatever, hot tea, broth, anything like that, was super helpful. The other thing is to make sure that you're eating and to make sure that that person is eating. For me, I had a total loss of appetite. Food sounded gross. It felt kind of like morning sickness, pregnant or something. Nausea, did not feel like eating. Certainly didn't want to go fix myself something to eat. So if you're helping, one thing that was super helpful is that my daughter ended up like cooking a bunch of chicken or meat and vegetables, and she actually chopped it all up, which I'm so thankful she thought to do that, because if I had to just the thought of going and getting meat and trying to cut it up would have been enough to keep me from eating. So all I had to do was scoop things out of Tupperware onto a plate and put it in the microwave. That's when I really started eating more, was when it was that accessible and that easy. But making sure they eat, the nurses kept telling me that my body has to be strong to fight this and that it could be a long battle, which it ended up being for me. And so you don't really want to be losing weight, although I did. You want to be nourishing your body. Somebody who had been in the hospital with COVID and was having a long recovery suggested to me to do smoothies, and that really was a game changer for me. So if you're taking care of somebody, maybe make them smoothies. One of the nurses told me that one of the reasons you're so lethargic and so weak is that this virus actually stealing iron out of your blood. You're lacking iron. And so we just stuffed a lot of spinach in there and bananas and all kinds of good things. And smoothie was really helpful for me to start trying, kind of feeling a little bit of energy and just a little bit of health coming back. So maybe mention to the person, does this sound good? Does this sound good? Does this sound good? And if something sounds good, get it for them, because they really need to eat. And it's really difficult to eat during that time. The other thing the nurses were telling me every day was move. As much as you can, move. They were gathering more information and recognizing that laying flat on your back is not good for your lungs, and that's where fluid can start building up and bring on that pneumonia. And so they were like, sit up, move, get up, which maybe sounds like it would be an easy thing, but that was not an easy thing. So maybe encouraging that person, sit up. How long have you sat up? Can you sit up for a little while, even though you're not in there with them? Find a way to encourage that. I had to make myself get up or sit up, because I just did not feel like it for a good amount of time. The other thing that was suggested to me that I thought was really helpful, and I will put a link in the description box of a video that teaches you how to do this, is breathing exercises. And because with COVID, you're watching out for your lungs, there's breathing exercises you can do that really help get the oxygen into your lungs. And I did that twice a day. And so if you're helping somebody, maybe if they feel like they can't do it, maybe even over the phone, you can just go through the breathing exercises with them to get them to do it. I think it's really important. I think it really helped me. So I'll leave that link in the description box for you. The other thing that would be helpful, but I just don't know how you would do it, is laundry. I didn't have a way to do my laundry down here in our little apartment. And with all that sweating, sorry to get gross, but I mean, sheets, clothing, everything just gets dirty, so fast. I don't know about everybody else, but I didn't really have that many loungy, pajama-y type clothing. And everything I did, I went through very quickly. Then I attacked my husband's side of the closet, went through his clothes, and then my daughter ended up sending some of her stuff down for me. So I don't know how you could offer to do that, but doing that, if somebody doesn't have a way to get up and do their own laundry, would be so helpful, or somehow trying to help them change their sheets or something. I don't know if you're going to risk, your own health to go in their room. I didn't want anybody in my room. I didn't want anybody risking their health. But anyway, that definitely was an issue. And now I have like scads of laundry to get done, and ended up like beginning of week 3, I had to just wash my stuff out in my sink and wait for it to dry the next day. If my family knew that, they would have a cow, because they wouldn't have let that happen. But just something you might want to think of is just all the laundry you go through when you've got those kind of fevers coming and going. The other thing that I think is so important is just to try to help people with their emotional well-being. When you're in isolation like that, and you sometimes kind of feel like a leper or something, and you do worry about contaminating other people. You worry about, when this is over with, am I going to feel safe to be around other people? Are people going to feel safe to be around me? Like I said before, that constant worry that am I going to slip into this critical condition very quickly sometime and end up in the hospital with a ventilator? What's going to happen? It's emotionally draining, and you're all by yourself. So you know how that can get, right? So somehow, just to help people with their emotional well-being, it's not a time to give a bunch of suggestions. It's not a time to ask a lot of questions, probably even, but just to be there and be supportive, and to really think about ways that you can encourage. People in this household thought of some really creative ways to send me little gifts. There were people who sent cards. Like I said, I didn't let many people know I was going through this, so there weren't very many people that knew. A text message, or even a call, but just know that they have, that there's an option for them not to answer. Many times I just could not talk to anybody. Don't expect them to answer your texts. Don't get in a big long conversation, because I'm telling you, I was so weak, I just couldn't do it. Be creative and think of who that person is and what would be helpful and what would keep their spirits boosted, because they're so alone, and for part of the time at least, so sick. Make some good bone broth soup, vegetable soup, chicken soup to bring them, and another daughter did that for me too, and it just was very nourishing. So think of nourishing things. Again, said those smoothies, that was a game changer for me. That somebody that had been through COVID, had been in the hospital, had been in critical condition, suggested to me, and that was really great. It was one of the only things that sounded good. Because remember, like for me, that loss of appetite lasted until just a few days ago. For 3 solid weeks, I did not feel like eating anything. So I hope this has been a little helpful. Like I'm not a doctor, but I can just tell you some good medical advice that I got, some things that people did for me that were super helpful, and hope that you're able to help somebody that's sick. hope you don't ever know anybody that gets COVID. Perhaps it's you. Maybe you're going to think about this later. And let's all remember to be kind to one another. I'm telling you, the most depressing thing for me during this time was to have enough energy to get on social media and just kind of scroll through and just to see all the crazy that's going on with everybody about this. For some reason, it just made me feel even sicker. Like, you know, I'm sick. Why are you guys arguing about this? Let's just take care of the ones that are sick and do whatever we have to do for them. Can we do that? So be kind to one another, love one another, and we're gonna get through this. I did. See you next time.